Good day, everyone. This time we're going to talk about the Philippine mythology. Almost everybody is familiar with Zeus, right? We also have Athena, Aphrodite, Eros, and the other legendary gods of Greek mythology. It seems that we are all clueless about their Filipino counterparts. The late anthropologist Otley Beyer shared his own observation. Among the Christianized peoples of the plains, the myths are preserved chiefly as folk tales, but in the mountains, their recitation and preservation is a real and living part of the daily religious life of the people. And very few of these myths are written. The great majority of them were preserved by oral tradition only. So when we say Philippine mythology, this is the body of stories and epics originating from and the part of the indigenous Philippine folk religions, which include various ethnic faiths distinct from one another. Let us define Philippine mythology. Philippine mythology is a collection of stories and superstitions about magical beings, deities, whom our ancestors believed controlled everything. It is part of the folklore which covers all kinds of traditional knowledge embedded in our society. We have the arts, literature, customs, beliefs, and games, among others. So if you're going to examine the folklore family tree, you will see the folk literature branching out into three groups. So we have three groups. We have the folk speech, which includes the bugtong or riddles and salawikain or proverbs, folk songs, and folk narratives. Folk narratives are all about stories. They may be told in prose, verse, or both. They are further divided into three subcategories: the folk tales or the kwentong bayan, legends or alamat, and myths. The folk tales are pure fiction, something that you use to entertain bored kids. The legends and myths, meanwhile, are assumed to be true by the storyteller. It is the timeline that sets them apart. While legends happened in a much more recent time period, myths are believed to have taken place in the remote past, which means a period when the world as we know it today wasn't fully formed yet. So myths are believed to have taken place in the remote past, meaning a period that the world as we know it today wasn't fully formed yet. According to Damiana Eugenio, the mother of the Philippine folklore myths, myths account for the origin of the world of mankind, of death, or for characteristics of birds, animals, geographical features, and the phenomena of nature. Falling under this subcategory are the stories or the adventures of deities, defined as supernatural beings with human characteristics. So take a look of this diagram. So we are here, we have there the myths. Okay, now let's talk about one of the characters of Philippine mythology. We have Bathala. From his abode in the sky, called Kwalal, Kawalhatian, this deity looks over mankind. He is pleased when his people follow his rules, giving everything they need to point of spoiling them, hence, the bahala na philosophy. But mind you, this powerful deity could also be cruel sometimes. sending lightning and thunder to those who sin against him. So Bathala is also known as Abba. This highest ranking deity was described as may kapal sa lahat, or the creator of everything. His origin is unknown, but his name suggests Hindu influences. According to William Henry Scott, Bathala was delivered from the Sanskrit Batara, which means noble lord. So take note of Bathala. This name is really common. Um, it is very familiar to all of us. So other indigenous groups in Luzon also believe in a creator god, but they didn't call him Bathala. For example, the Bontocs and Kankanais of the Central Cordillera considered Lumawig the creator of all things and the preserver of life. This deity later sired two pretty daughters. We have Bugan, the goddess of romance, and Oban, the goddess of reproduction. Those from Benguet honored Apo as their highest-ranking deity. Ifugaos, meanwhile, called their own Kabunian. The latter was believed to have inhabited the fifth region of the universe and was assisted by other minor gods, among them Tayaban, the firefly-looking god of death, Gatui, the god of practical jokes, who was also blamed for causing miscarriages among Ifugao mothers. We also have Hidit, gods of the rituals, responsible for giving punishments to those who broke taboos. And we also have Bulol or Bulol. He is a famous Ifugao rice god worshipped in the form of small wooden statues resembling their ancestors. So we have again different gods aside from Bathala. So early people of Zambales, on the other hand, named their highest ranking deity as Malayari for Zambales, Sambal people. Just like the Bathala of the Tagalogs, this creator god rewarded his worshippers with good health and harvest and punished the unbelievers with disease and famine. Lesser divinities also assisted Malayari in carrying out his task, among them Akasi. Akasi is the god of health and sickness. Manglubar, the god of powerful living, whose task was to pacify angry hearts. And the guardian angel Mangalabar, the god of good grace. Bulul, guardian figure of the Ifugao people, the Bulul are anthropomorphical representations of rice divinities protecting the seeds and the harvest, wood and sacrificial remains, northern Luzon Island, 15th century. Okay, we have there the source. Idianale. Idianale is the goddess of labor and deeds. If Bathala was the boss, the other lesser deities who lived with him in the sky were his assistants. So each of these lower ranking gods and goddesses had specific responsibilities. One of them is Idianale, Idianale or Idianali in other sources, the goddess of labor and good deeds. So there are varying accounts as to what specific field Idianale or Idianale was worshipped for. Historian Gregorio Zaide, he said that Idianale was the god of agriculture, while other sources suggest that she was the patron of animal husbandry, a branch of agriculture. And he Idianale married Dumangan, the god of good harvest, and later gave birth to two more Tagalog deities, Dumakulam and Anitun Tabu. We also have Dumangan. In Zambales culture, Dumangan or Dumagan caused the rice to yield better grains. And according to Landa Hocano, the early people of Zambales also believe Dumagan had three brothers who were just as powerful as him. So Dumangan, take note, was the Tagalog sky god of good harvest. He is the husband of Idianale and father of Dumakulem and Anitun Tabu. We also have Kalasakas, hastens the ripening of the rice stalks, while Kalasokus was responsible for turning the grains into yellow. Lastly, the deity Damulag protected the flowers of the rice plants from the destructive hurricanes. Next one we have Anitun Tabu. Anitun Tabu was known as the fickle-minded goddess of the wind and rain, and she is one of the two children of Dumangan and Idianale. And of course, we have Anitun Tawu or Anitun Tabu. In Zambales, this goddess was known as Anitun Tawu, one of the lesser deities assisting their chief god, Mayari. Legend has, is, legend has it that Aniton Tabu was once considered superior to other Zambales deities. She became so full of herself that Malayari reduced her rank as a punishment. Zambales people used to offer her with the best kind of pinipig or pounded young rice grains during harvest season. Sacrifices that made use of these ingredients are known as mamyarag in their local dialect. We also have Ikapati or Lakapati. Ikapati or Lakapati was the Tagalog goddess of fertility. Hokano described her as the goddess of the cultivated land and the benevolent giver of food and prosperity. And some sources describe Lakapati as androgynous, hermaphrodite, and even a transgender god. In William Henry Scott's Barangay, Lakapati is described as a major fertility deity represented by hermaphrodite image with both male and female parts. She married the god of seasons, Mapulon, and became the mother of Anagolay, goddess of lost things. So before planting in a new field, the ancient Tagalogs usually offered sacrifices to Lakapati. In the 17th century, report by a Franciscan missionary Father Pedro de San Buenaventura, it was said that a farmer paying homage to this fertility goddess would hold up a child before saying, Lakapati, pakanin mo, yiring alipin mo, huwag mong gutumin. Or in English, Lakapati, feed this thy slave, let him not hunger. Being the kindest among the lesser deities of Bathala, Lakapati was loved and respected by the people. So, Lakapati is just one of the lesser deities of Bathala. We also have Mapulon. In Tagalog mythology, Mapulon was the god of seasons. Not much is known about this deity, aside from the fact that he married Ikapati or Lakapati, the fertility goddess, and sired Anagolay, the goddess of lost things. Okay, we have here Anagolay. Pre-colonial Tagalogs who were hopelessly looking for their missing stuff prayed to Anagolay, the goddess of lost things. She was the daughter of two major Tagalog deities, Ikapati and Mapulon. So when she reached the right age, she married the hunter Dumakulim and gave birth to two more deities, Apolaki and Dian Masalanta, the ancient gods of sun and lovers respectively. We have an interesting fact about this. In September of 2014, the Minor Planet Center, the international agency responsible for naming minor bodies in the solar system, officially gave the name Anagolay to an asteroid first discovered in 1982 by Helene at the Palomar Observatory. So obviously, the asteroid was named after the ancient Tagalog goddess of lost things. The name submitted by a Filipino student. We have Muhammad Alon, bested more than 1,000 entries in a contest held by the Space Generation Advisory Council. So that's Anagolay. We also have Apolaki. The Tagalogs revered Apolaki as the sun god as well as patron of the warriors. He shares almost the same qualities with the Kapampangan sun god of war and death, Aring Sinukuan. Early people of Pangasinan claimed that Apolaki talked to them, back when blackened teeth were considered the standard of beauty. Some of these natives told the friar that a disappointed Apolaki had scolded them for welcoming foreigners with white teeth. Apolaki was in fact the son of the supreme god of the ancient Tagalogs, Bathala. That is according to some stories, that Apolaki is the son of Bathala. Arguably, the Filipino counterpart of the Roman god Mars, Apolaki appeared in several ancient myths also. In the book of William Henry Scott, the name of this deity is said to have originated from Apo, which means Lord, and Laki, which means male, or yes, Lord, and Laki, which means male. Yes, correct. In other stories, however, Apolaki was in fact the son of the supreme gods of the Tagalog, as I have said earlier. And we have the book Philippine Myths, Legends, and Folktales by Maximo Ramos. It contains the story of how the sun became brighter than the moon. In the said myth, Bathala sired two children from a mortal woman. He named his son Apolaki and his daughter Mayari. That is the story. Both children had eyes so bright that they became the source of light for the rest of the world. When Bathala died, Apolaki and Mayari both wanted to succeed their father. A long, bloody argument ensued as neither one of them wanted to give up the throne. The fight reached the boiling point when Apolaki hit Mayari's face with a wooden club, blinding her one eye. Cooler heads prevailed, and both agreed to just take turns in ruling the world. Apolaki now occupies the throne during daytime, while Mayari, the moon goddess, provides the cool and gentle light during nighttime, for she is blind in one eye. So that's the story of Apolaki and Mayari. We have the daytime and then the nighttime. We also have Dian Masalanta, or yes, Dian Masalanta. If the Greeks had Aphrodite, our Tagalog ancestors had Dian Masalanta, the patron goddess of lovers and childbirth. This deity was the brother of the sun god Apolaki, two parents Anagolay and Dumakulam. And the sacrifices were offered to Dian Masalanta to ensure successful pregnancies. The same was done for other lesser deities who ruled specific domains like Mankukutod, the protector of coconut palms, who could cause accidents if the offering was not made. Haik or Haik, the sea god, was honored by sea travelers for a safe and successful voyage. While Uwiansana, the forest deity, was acknowledged so that anyone who entered his property wouldn't be punished for trespassing. So take note of these gods and goddesses in Filipino. When we talk about successful pregnancies, we have Dian Masalanta for protector of coconut palms. We have Mankukutod. Who else? The sea god Haik. The spelling is Haik, Haik or Haik. Um, Haik was honored by sea travelers for a safe voyage. And we also have Uwinan Sana, the forest deity, and acknowledged by anyone who entered this property wouldn't be punished for trespassing. Okay, let's now move on to Amanikabli. Amanikabli, the chief protector of the sea, on the other hand, was Aman Sinaya or Amanisaya in other references, who gave his devotees a good catch. In the same book by William Henry Scott, Aman Sinaya was described as a deity called upon by believers when first wetting a net or fish hook. He was also identified as the father of Sinaya, who invented the fishing gear. So depending on what book you read, Amanikabli or Amanikable or Aman Ikabli in other sources. So there are so many versions of his name depending on the sources. Could either be the ancient Tagalog patron of hunters or god of the sea. And according to an to one of the one anthrop according to one anthropologist, Landa Hucano, um, Amanikabli was described as a husky, ill-tempered ruler of the sea, whose hatred towards mankind started when a beautiful mortal woman, aptly named Maganda, rejected his love, nabasted siya. Since then, the sea god had made it his personal agenda to send turbulent waves and horrible tempests, even now and even then, to wreck boats and drown men. That is the work of Amanikabli. Amanikabli. We also have Mayari, Hana, and Tala. These three became the Tagalog goddesses of the moon, morning, and star, respectively. So once upon a time, Bathala fell in love with a mortal woman. She died after giving birth to three beautiful daughters. Of course, Bathala didn't want anything bad to happen to his girls, so he brought all three of them to the sky to live with him. Before long, these three demigods were given specific roles. Mayari, Hana, or Hanan in other references, and Tala became the Tagalog goddesses of the moon, morning, and star, respectively. So that is the story of these three uh, goddesses. Mayari, Hana, and Tala, the goddesses of the moon, morning, and star. We have this one. One Pangasinan myth tried to explain the origin of the sun, moon, and the stars. This story started with an all-powerful god called Ama, giving a fiery place to each of his two sons, Aguyo, or sun, and Bulan, moon. With their palaces, these two gods would pass across the world every day to provide light to the people. Aguwo, and Bulan are comparable to the Bible's Cain and Abel. You know the Cain and Abel story? They are siblings, they are brothers. So between the two, Bulan was the mischievous one. When he overheard a group of thieves wishing for darkness so they could steal and wreak havoc to mankind, Bulan was thrilled. He then asked his brother Aguwo to quickly leave the earth so his evil friends could do their business. So when Aguwo refused, a heated argument took place. Nag-away na sila. Aware of everything that happened, Bathala was furious at Bulan. From his abode in the sky, he seized an enormous rock and hurled it whistling through the air. It hit Bulan's palace, breaking it into pieces. The flickering fragments became the stars. Bulan had since been banned from joining his brother in circling around the world. He still lives in a fiery place, but its dim light is only enough to guide the thieves during nighttime. Another Mayari story appeared both in Maximo Ramos, the Philippine Myths, Legends, and Folktales, and another one from Dian Masalanta, Filipino Popular Tales. According to this myth from Pampanga, Mayari was the sister of the sun god, Apolaki, and both of them were gifted with bright eyes, which serve as a light for the whole world. When their father died, the siblings argued on who deserved to take the throne. The fight ended up with Mayari blinded in one eye after Apolaki hit her with a bamboo club. Burdened by guilt, the sun god finally agreed to just share the leadership with her sister. Apolaki soon became the sun and provides the warm light during the day, while Mayari became the moon that rose every night. We also have Lakanbakod, Lakandanum, and Lakambini. In William Henry Scott's barangay, Lakanbakod was described as a deity who had gilded genitals as long as a rice stalk. Lakanbakod was the Lord of Fences, take note of that, a protector of crops, powerful enough to keep animals out of the farmlands. Hence, he was invoked and offered eels when fencing a plot of land. Lakambini was just a fascinating, although the name is almost synonymous with muse, the word muse. Nowadays, it was not the case during the early times. Not all deities in Philippine mythology live in the sky with Bathala. Some of them coexisted with the ancient Tagalogs and were easily invoked during religious ceremonies headed by a Catalonan. Spanish lexicographers called these supernatural beings Anito, Bathala's agents who were assigned specific functions. Three of the most interesting minor deities actually had names that rhymes together: Lakanbakod, Lakandanum, Lakambini. Up until the 19th century, Lakambini had been the name given to an Anito whom Fray San Buenaventura described as Diyos-Diyosang sumasakop siya sa mga sakit sa lalamunan. Diyos-Diyosang sumasakop siya sa mga sakit sa lalamunan. Okay, so that's Lakanbini. In simple English, this minor deity was invoked by our ancestors to treat throat ailments. We have Lakandanum. Lakandanum was known as the water god, depicted as a serpent-like mermaid naga. Among the ancient Kapampangans, Lakandanum was known as the water god, depicted as a serpent-like mermaid. Before the Spaniards arrived, they would often throw livestock to the rivers as a peace offering for Lakandanum, and the failure to do so resulted in long periods of drought. So every year, during the dry season, the natives would make sacrifices for the water god to give them rain. And when the rain started pouring, they would take it as a cue that Lakandanum had returned and everyone would be in a festive mood. In fact, the old Kapampangan New Year, called Bayong Danum, which means new water, started as a celebration in honor of Lakandanum. So when Christianity came into the picture, it was converted into the Feast of Saint John in Pampanga and Feast of Saint Peter in other areas of the Philippines. We also have Galang Kaluluwa and Ulilang Kaluluwa. In some Tagalog creation myths, Bathala was not the only deity who lived in the universe before humanity was born. He shared the space with two other powerful gods, the serpent Ulilang Kaluluwa, or orphan spirit, who live in the clouds, and the wandering god aptly named Galang Kaluluwa. Ulilang Kaluluwa wanted the earth and the rest of the universe for himself. Therefore, when he learned of Bathala, who was eyeing for the same stuff, he decided to fight. After days of non-stop battle, Bathala became the last man standing. The lifeless body of Ulilang Kaluluwa was subsequently burned. In a few years later, Bathala and Galang Kaluluwa met. The two became friends, with Bathala even inviting the latter to stay in his kingdom. But the life of Galang Kaluluwa was cut short by an illness. Upon his friend's request, Bathala buried the body at exactly the same spot where Ulilang Kaluluwa was previously burned. Soon, a mysterious tree grew from the grave. Its fruit and wing-like leaves reminded Bathala of his departed friend, while the hard and attractive trunk had the same qualities as the evil Ulilang Kaluluwa. The tree, as it turned out, is the tree of life. We greatly value today the coconut. Coconut is the tree of life. Such was the importance of the coconut tree that when Bathala decided to create the first man and woman, he built a house for them using its trunk and leaves. As for their daily sustenance, the coconut's juice and its succulent white meat prove to be nourishing. It didn't take long before they discovered more of the tree's hidden gifts. Its leaf, its leaves could turn into good mats and brooms, while the fiber could become sturdy ropes, among other things. Okay. Now we also have Halia and the Bakunawa. Halia is the moon goddess of Bicolano mythology, who periodically comes down to earth to bath in its waters. Legend has it that the world used to be illuminated by 7 moons. The gigantic sea serpent called the Bakunawa, gigantic sea serpent, take note, it's Bakunawa, a mythical creature found in the early Bicolano and Hiligaynon culture, devoured all but one of these moons. In some myths, the remaining moon was saved after the gods came to the rescue and punished the sea monster. Another story suggests that Halia was the name of the last moon standing, and she spared herself from being eaten by making noises using drums and gong sounds that the Bakunawa found repulsive. So that was the legend. Pre-colonial Filipinos blamed the Bakunawa for causing the eclipse. Yan, it's Bakunawa again. Its name literally means bent serpent. Bakunawa was deeply embedded in our ancient culture that by the time of Ignacio Alcina penned his 1668 book Historias de las Islas e Indios de las Visayas, the name of the sea serpent was already synonymous with the eclipse. The Hiligaynon people of the Visayas believe that the Bakunawa lives either in an area between the sky and the clouds or inside Bungalog, which, which is an underground passage near the headwaters of big river systems. So believing that an eclipse was actually a Bakunawa attempting to swallow the moon, ancient Visayas tried to ward off the monster by creating sounds. They did this by striking the floors of their houses or by beating cans, drums, and the like. We also have Sitan. In a way, our Tagalog ancestors already believe in the afterlife even before the colonizers introduced to us their Bible. One proof is the pre-colonial custom of burying the dead with a pabaon, which could be in the form of jewelry, food, or even slaves. And some people, even nowadays, they're still doing this. In burying the dead, they give pabaon. Sometimes it's uh maybe it's a money, jewelry, food, or anything else. Basta may pabaon. So the modern day heaven and hell also had ancient counterparts. Hokano said that the early Tagalogs believed good guys would go to Maka. When we say Maka, this is the place of eternal peace and happiness. The evil sinners, on the other hand, were thrown into the village of grief and affliction called Kasanaan or Kasamaan. So the Kasanaan is the place of punishment ruled by Sitan, which shares striking similarities with Christianity's ultimate villain, Satan. Okay, instead of Satan, it's Sitan. They are the same. However, Hokano said that Satan was most likely derived from the Islamic ruler of the underworld named Saitan or Shaitan. This suggests that the Muslim religion already had a grip to our society way before the Spaniards arrived. Now, just like Bathala, the vicious Sitan was also assisted by other lesser deities or mortal agents. So first, we have Mangagaway. So when we say Mangagaway is the wicked shapeshifter who wore a skull necklace and could kill or heal anyone with the use of her magic wand. She could also prolong one's death for weeks or even months by simply binding a snake containing her potion around the person's waist. That's Manggagaway, one of the assistants of Sitan or Satan. We also have Mansisilat. Mansisilat was literally the home wrecker of Philippine mythology. As the goddess of broken homes, she accepted it as her personal mission to destroy relationships. Ito yung sinasabi nating mga kabit, the home wreckers. She did this by disguising herself as an old beggar or healer who would enter the homes of unsuspecting couples. Using her charms, Mansisilat could magically turn husbands and wives against each other and ending up in separation. If we have Mansisilat, we also have Mankukulam, or some people say it's Mangkukulam. This is equally frightening. were Hukluban and Mangkukulam. The Mangkukulam, on the other hand, often wandered around villages pretending to be a priest doctor, or sometimes maybe they say albularyo. In William Henry Scott's barangay, the former was described as the most powerful kind of witch, able to kill or cause unconsciousness simply by greeting a person. Hukana added that Ahukluban was also a terrific shapeshifter who could make anything happen, say, burn a house down by simply uttering it. In the same book by Scott, Amankukulam was described as a witch who appears at night as if burning, setting fires that cannot be extinguished, or wallows in the filth under houses, whereupon some householder will sicken and die. Okay, that's Mankukulam, or we call it Mangkukulam. So most of the time we call it Mangkukulam. Okay, that would be all about the Philippine literature. So thank you for listening, and please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you.